speaking with Metal Church lead singer Ronny Munroe. And Ronny, the reason we're talking today is about a week ago you released your latest album, solo album. I believe it's called Electric Wake. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And how's the album been doing so far?
Well, so far the reviews have been pretty good, and we've got a good response.
And now, of course, you're busy currently also with Metal Church, supporting the latest Metal Church album, Generation Nothing. How's the tour been going with that?
Well, we just got back from Europe a couple days ago from doing some festivals, Grass Pop, Tiska, and a few others, and that's going well as well. Everything is good right now.
And so you're kind of, from what I understand, promoting both albums. So once things slow down with Metal Church, will you be doing any shows to support the new solo album?
Yeah, I'm planning on doing maybe 2 or 3 more shows on the East Coast in October at some point.
Oh, okay. And I've seen the videos you've put out. You've already got 3 videos out for the new solo album. I know on one of the tracks you got Dave Rude and Pamela Moore. You want to talk a little bit about how they got involved in the project?
Yeah, well, basically, those guys are all label mates of mine on Rat Pak Records. So when Joe and I were talking about things and how we were going to do the record and this and that he had brought that up, and I said sure, because of course Dave Rude is great, and Pamela has a rich history, and I've always wanted to work with her, and so that's kind of how that all came about, and George Lynch as well. Oh,
okay. And what track does George play on? Ghost.
He
Okay.
did the solo on Ghost.
Okay. And of course he's a label mate as well. Now I know you guys shot a video for a song you did with Pamela and Dave. What was that like?
Oh, well, it was really fun. We actually did that at Howard Leese, his house called The Castle in Washington.
Okay.
And we did it in the round on the tracks and whatnot, and it was a good experience, man. Everybody involved, Ross and Zen Film, Pamela and Dave, of course. Everybody had a great time, and it was it ended up pretty good.
And I think
I'm happy with it.
Yeah, they're all very talented people, and I think the great thing about having a singer like Pamela featured on the album is it really showcases her talent as a vocalist. I mean, the fact that she can, do different types of music.
Well, yeah, it is a bit of a departure for her, but yeah. I mean, she's still kind of into the metal scene and whatnot. But yeah, it was a pleasure.
Yeah. And so how many? Because I haven't had a chance to listen to the whole album yet, but just for people that are interested, how many tracks are on the new album?
Well, there's the Japanese import that has the cover of Iron Maiden B-side Total Eclipse, which I did in memory of Clive Burr, and also Tainted Nations. I believe there's 12 total. Okay, and now that's pretty cool, the Iron Maiden track. Now, of course, like most people know, you usually got to have like a bonus track, like you're saying, for Japan and different countries. I was curious, was that just a song you wanted to cover, like you said, in memory of Clive Burr? Well, it ended up that way, but that's been one of my favorite songs of theirs, actually, since day one. It was originally meant to be on Number of the Beast.
Okay, I'd be interested to hear that. Now, I was curious, like when you do a cover like that, Ronny, because of course I haven't had a chance to hear this, do you try to make it sound as true as to the original, or you like to kind of put your own spin on it?
I try to stay as close to the original as possible, but on this one I kind of produced it a little bit. I mean, as far as the arrangement goes, we changed it up a bit. Instead of ending it abruptly as it does on the real track, I had to do a fade out, and I've got some different harmonies in there and whatnot. So I did put my take on it.
Yeah, and I think that's great that you would pay tribute to a guy like Clive Burr, for a simple fact that he died a couple of years ago, and unfortunately, he was on like those. It's on the first 3 Maiden albums, but a lot of people forget about him for a simple fact that Nico McBrain's been the drummer in Iron Maiden for years and years now, and that's the guy that they think when they think of Iron Maiden.
Well, when you're old school and you've been around
yeah.
as many years as I have, you know who the originals are. And Clive Burr was also an influence on me when I was a drummer, because I was a drummer before I became a singer, as you know, Jason.
Yeah. And now let me ask you, Ronny. Now, when you went in to record this new solo album, because one thing I really enjoy about listening to all 3 of your solo albums is while it's got that definite classic Ronny Munroe sound, none of the 2 albums sound exactly like I hear quite a progression in each each of the albums, and this one I got to say, it really it's like a giant leap forward.
Well, thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. And as an artist, I think we all want to do something better than what we've done in the past. But this time around, I've got my full band now. Paul Clough, Sean Baker, Dave Denigian, and Tony Rossi. We all recorded this live at Rock City Sound in Detroit with Pete Bankert Engineering, the first round. And I found my guys. I found the unit that I really get along with very, very well. They're all accomplished musicians. And again, this time around, things have turned out differently. The songwriting, Paul Clough, brilliant songwriter. Him and I really found like I found my John Lennon, if you will.
Yeah. Clough, yeah.
And also Sean Baker, he wrote United. So, I've got a really good unit this time, and I feel the same. I think this is my strongest album yet. And
as far as, having a set band, like you said, you usually on the past two albums you've had like guest musicians come in. What's it like for you to have like your full set band, if you know what I mean? These are the guys that you'll be touring with, the same ones that are on the album.
Well, it feels really good because then you can have a cohesive unit. And again, I've really lucked out with all these guys. They're, again, good human beings first and foremost, and great musicians. So we've done the one show in Seattle, Washington. We played a show co-headlining with Pamela and her band.
Wow.
And it turned out wonderfully. And I'm looking forward to getting back out and do some actual shows and get on the road with these guys, for a few shows. But I have to say that, of course, a Metal Church is the number one priority. I'm going to support this record as much as I can. But, Metal Church has also got some things coming up. But I'm also starting to write my next solo record as well. So there's a lot brewing right now.
Wow, yeah. And it's kind of interesting because, the Metal Church album is still doing quite well, even though it came out last November, and people, like you said, you guys are still touring behind it, and everybody's talking about it. And then you got this new solo album come out, so you're going to be double out there now. As far as your new band, I was curious, are these guys that you've known for a while, or did you audition them? Did people recommend these guys?
Basically, how that happened was I got into this band Firewolf with Paul and the other guitar player.
Oh, okay.
And after working with them, and things were starting to go forward, but then I got the call from Kurt, and we discussed getting back together with Metal Church,
yeah.
70,000 tons of metal.
Yeah.
And once that happened, of course I had to go that direction, and that's my bread and butter, so to speak. And then after that, Paul and I talked. I actually asked Paul, I said, hey, would you like to be in the Ronny Munroe band and write my solo record with me? And he said yes, and that's kind of how that transpired.
Wow, well, that's great. Now, last time I talked to you, of course, was when the Metal Church album just came out, and you talked a little bit, but there might be plans down the line for a Metal Church live album or DVD. Is that something you guys are still talking about?
We've been talking about that for a long time, but right now I really can't say much about what's going to be coming up, but it's going to be a big surprise.
Oh, okay.
Our next release. And there's also another studio record on tap.
Yeah.
But we got something special planned for the fans, and that'll come out shortly.
Oh, that's great there. Now that you have 3 solo albums worth of material, does it make it, you got that much more material to draw from? Does it make it any easier or harder to come up with a set list?
No, not really. I mean, we just kind of go through the songs and pick the ones that have had the most play or YouTube hits, or and also basically the songs that we know that work, or we would like to think that we know.
Yeah, and one thing I really dig about what you've done in Rat Pak is a lot of bands these days, they don't even put out music videos because they go, nobody cares about videos. But first of all, you've already the album's only been out a week or so, and you've already got three videos that you've released, and they're like really high quality videos. You tell that there's a lot of money spent behind it. So how did you guys decide which songs you wanted to shoot the videos for? Was that Rat Pak's decision, or did you tell them these are the 3 songs I want to do the videos for?
Well, with Prey, the last one that came out, which I think that's one of the best songs that I've ever written, that one, my drummer, Tony, and his wife, really had a very big interest in that and the message behind it, and they came to me with the idea of shooting a video. And I kind of milled it around a bit and went for it. So we all kind of pitched in and made a big deal out of it and all that. So that's how Prey came to light, to be a video, that is. And the others, and United, Joe and I talked about. And we figured the others being that I've always wanted to write that European kind of metal anthem.
Yeah, okay.
You know, and get different people involved in and whatnot. We figured that would be an appropriate choice. And then Joe came to me with United and was like, you know, I think this is a single. And he was right about that. It's a very strong song. So that's why we did those.
And then like, as far as the guest musicians, Pamela and Dave and George, how did you go about picking which songs you thought they would be, you know, they'd be spotlighted the best on?
Well, you kind of just go back through their history, and in my mind, I was just like, when I heard the original solo that Paul did for Ghost, it seemed fitting, you know, for George to do that, and also just the same with the others. You know, I just kind of picked it out, and also Joe helped me with that as well. Joe is an intricate part in helping me out with certain things when it comes to the aspects of my records and whatnot. Of course, I write the songs and this and that with my guys, but when it comes to all that and business side of it, picking, Joe is right there with me on that.
Oh, yeah, that's great, because, you know, George Lynch, I mean, there's no arguing what a talented player he is. I mean, he can do the pop, you know, he can do the pop metal stuff to, you know, the full-blown shred stuff like what he's doing on your album. So again, I think
George Lynch is a guitar god, as we all know.
Yeah.
I mean, Dave Root, great, Pamela as well. You know, but George Lynch, you know, that's, you know, a guy from on the next level there, and it was truly an honor. And Paul Cruff also was very honored by that. You know, being that he wrote the music to the song for George to play on that.
Wow, yeah. That's now. You're saying that you guys recorded it live, so I assume that the whole band was in the studio together when you guys recorded this?
Correct. Rock City Sound in Detroit.
That's great, because, you know, I really miss bands doing that, because, you know, back in the day, you know, back in the 80s and even the 70s, you know, bands that we all grew up on, that's the way it was done, and you can really hear the difference as opposed to, you know, when guys, you know, just record the parts separately and kind of piece everything together. And when I listen to, you know, the songs off this new CD you put out, I mean, you can really, it's got that live in your face, you know, sound, and I think that's what makes it such a great album.
Well, thank you, Jason. I really appreciate that, you know, because you're right about that. It was a big difference as far as, you know, recording together and doing it that way. You know, my other Lords of the Edge, especially Stu Marshall, wrote a lot of the songs, the majority of the songs on that, and we did that through the internet. And the Fire Within, of course, Kurt Vander produced and engineered, so we did it that way. But this time around, having the whole band there and recording their own parts and all that was the way that it should be done.
And now, of course,
I'm very happy with the outcome.
Of course, you know, being a Ronny Munroe album, this, you know, all eyes are on you. In other words, you're the guy that gets the final say. Is that something you really enjoy, as opposed to like when you're doing Metal Church and kind of, you know, even though you're collaborating and working with Kurt, you know, he's kind of got the final say and the decision making. Is that something you enjoy, like doing these solo albums?
You know, I guess maybe to a point to have a little bit more say, but then again, I also, Paul and Sean both also helped in the production of this, as well as Bruce Boulay, as mentioned, which I should have brought him up earlier. But, you know, no, to be honest, it's really not a control thing whatsoever.
Not a control thing, but...
I enjoy people's input, and basically what makes the song the best is where I'm at. That's where I come from.
Yeah, I mean, not so much that you're a control freak, but or anything like that. That wasn't my point. I mean, like, I think you're a kind of musician where, you know, you take two routes. You could make it the Ronny Munroe show, but what you chose to do instead is choose. You get a very talented group of musicians, and everybody shines on an album. That it makes it that much stronger of an album.
Yeah, no, I got what you were saying. And now, if I did like try to do everything myself, well, then I would be a control freak. But no, you're right about that. Collectively, as a whole, that's what's best for the album, and it's about the music first and foremost. And which like every other artist, like I said earlier, every time you put something out, you want it to be better than what the last one was. And this time around, I want to continue on my next one to do it just like I did this time. Of course,
And let me ask you, like, when you were ready to go into the studio, did you have everything written for the album, or did you write the songs after you entered the studio?
Well, Paul and I went back and forth through Firewolf and up through that about almost 2 years, really. You know, about going through the songs, and we threw a bunch out and then revisited certain things and took parts from one and put it into the other and whatnot. There was a lot of pre-production that went on this record, and that also shows.
And so, like, now let me ask you, like, you started out, I guess, as you were saying, in your other band, Firewolf. Now, do you think, being that they wound up on a Ronny Munroe album, that they have different arrangements than if it would have been recorded by Firewolf?
Oh, no. Well, the songs that we were doing with Firewolf are not, there's nothing from Firewolf that's on here.
Oh, okay.
The songs that Paul wrote,
I hear you.
a couple
I hear you.
were in the project that we were going to do, that we took for ourselves. But those were songs written by Paul himself.
Oh, okay. And, you know, I was curious, like, when you guys get in the studio, how long did it take you, I guess, from the time you entered, like, till you finished recording? I guess you said it was over a 2-year period?
What the songwriting process was.
Okay.
As far as in the studio, that was only over 2 days.
Okay, and now...
we actually recorded the instruments and whatnot, but then going back and forth and engineering, and then we had it remixed, we had it remastered, and there was a lot that went into this.
Okay. And now, as far as the songwriting, because I always love to ask guys, like, you typically, like, when you start writing, like, do you guys typically, like, write the lyrics first? Do you start off, like, with the guitar riff typically, and then, you know, jam the songs out? What's your usual operation as far as the songwriting?
The usual formula for me, the way that I like to write, is it begins with the music.
Okay.
And then I write from there, but there are times that I'll have my own lyrics that I've already written, and melody lines that I will just record and send over and whatnot. But this time around, it really began with Paul. Paul Clef is a very good writer. Like I said, I think I found my John Lennon there as far as writing partners.
And as far as
whatnot, so.
As far as collaborating, like you obviously think, you know, he's a very gifted writer. When you work with somebody like that, do you think it brings your level of songwriting up, you know, just a notch?
I think it does. I would hope so, because you know you want to feed off one another and make yourself better all the time. And Paul, he's virtually pretty much unknown and all that, but it's nothing, because there's a lot of guys that are out there that are unknown that are brilliant, and I just happened to stumble across Paul, and he's one of them.
And as far as the 12 tracks that are on the album, I was curious. Did you guys have anything left over, like it was recorded, but did not make it onto the final cut?
Yeah, there was a couple, 2 or 3 different things and whatnot, but those will be for, you know, rearranging and all that, and to go for the next record, possibly. We might, who knows, we might be in a whole different mind frame then, and try something different and never use them, but we'll see what happens. And
so I was curious, because you still have physical copies of your CDs, which I think is great for guys like me that, you know, really enjoy having a physical thing in their hand to hold. And I was curious, as far as what's been selling, do you find that the physical CDs are selling just as well as people downloading it?
To be honest with you, Jason, I have not paid attention, because as an artist and musician, a person who just loves music, I just kind of go with the flow and let Joe handle that.
Yeah.
You know, I get the figures, a quarterly report, and just go from there, because basically, you know, it's out of my hands. Yeah. He does as much promo as he can. I do the same on my end, and we see where the ball ends up. And
see, I think the great thing about you know, having both formats available is, like, you know, honestly, I've been trying to I've been to a couple of Best Buys. I haven't found it there yet. I know it's in select Best Buys, but to me, like, if somebody wants to get the Ronny Munroe solo CD bad enough, you know, they'll even order it off of Amazon or CD Baby or whatever, wherever they have to go. And if they're that big of a fan, or they want the album big enough, they'll find a way to get their hands on the album.
That's exactly, man, because that is the way that it is. And I'm not going to drive around with CDs in the trunk of my car and
yeah.
You know, and do that whole rigmarole, which a lot of people have made themselves because of that. But I've been around for a long time now. I've established myself, and you know, as long as, here's how I look at it: as long as there are a few people out there that actually want to buy the CD or even buy it off of iTunes and hear my stuff that I'm doing, that's enough for me. I'm not thinking that I'm ever going to be that huge superstar, rich rock star and all that. It's not what it's about. I am who I am. I've been doing this a long time, and again, I'm just thankful for the people and the fans that I have.
And between the solo stuff and the Metal Church, you've been able to build up a nice little fan base for yourself, because I think Ronny Munroe has been the lead singer of Metal Church probably longer now than any of the previous singers, because for the simple fact that you guys just had your, I guess we'd call it comeback, because you'd been broken up for a couple of years before that, but the album just came out last November. Like I said, we're still talking about it and still selling. You guys are still out on tour, so I think that says something about how strong the fan base is.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I just keep working hard and doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to continue putting out solo records and all that, but of course continue to be the singer of Metal Church for as long as I can. And you're right, I have now been in the band in Metal Church for over 10 years, which is the longest of the three singers. I've done the most records, and there's a couple more to come. So, but let's not forget the legacy of Metal Church. It did start with David Wayne, and then Mike Howe came in, and now it's been me for a while. So.
No, by no means. But what I think is great about your part of the legacy is the fact that, like you said, these other guys weren't it before, and what they brought to the table was really great, and made Metal Church one of those legendary bands. But I think the great thing about you is you're kind of, even though a lot of people might still consider you the new guy, like you said, you've been the one maybe the most stable, and I think by the time the next album is ready to get released, people more be saying, oh yeah, Ronny Munroe, he's the lead singer. He's a guy that's been in a band more years than anybody, and I think as great as those other guys were, like you said, eventually there's going to be more Metal Church albums with you, if you stay in the lineup, and that'll help the band to get more of a cohesive sound.
Yeah, I believe that. Well, and I think we have a cohesive sound, but especially now after Generation Nothing, I think we really Kurt, as far as the writing goes and all that, really hit it on the head, and we're onto something. And I'm going to continue on with the band as long as I can, and continue doing my solo stuff as long as I can as well. Again, Jason, as long as the people want to hear what I'm doing, hear what Metal Church is doing, hear what the Ronny Munroe solo stuff is doing, I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. Yeah,
and and it's what I'm saying too about Metal Church. I think a lot of times when a band goes through that many singers, it affects the sales, and it makes it difficult for the fans to really get in the band. But that shows you too what a talented songwriter Kurt is, that he's able to write for whatever singer he's working with at the time, and still give it kind of that Metal Church stamp.
You're right about that. And Kurt does write to my voice, as he did, I'm sure too. Probably Mike, Dave, they were all like 18 years old when it just came out. But, with Mike Howe, I think it was what you just said holds true. And definitely with me, he does write around my voice, and he knows the range that I have, so the songs are limitless because I have a pretty broad range. But, again, yeah, Kurt is one of those guys that, basically he's got symphonies going on in his head. He's a true musician. Much respect there, and we make a great songwriting team.
And so let me ask you, Ron, you said so far you've done I think you said 1 or 2 shows in support of a solo album. Have you guys had, for those shows, did you have to rehearse much, or did you guys pretty much, were you prepared by the time the first live show came?
Well, just like Metal Church, the guys that I have in my solo band, again, Paul Cruff, Sean Bicker, David Denisian, and Tony Rossi, are pros. And yes, we did rehearse a few times, but a limited amount of times.
I hear you.
Because everybody learned all their parts before you go in. And when you're a pro and when you know what you're doing, that's what you do. You learn your parts on your own, and then when you get together in the same room, it's about fine-tuning. And that's also when you really find out if you're working with the right people or not. And with these guys that I have in the solo band now, that's why I say that I love them all. I mean, we got together in that room in Auburn, Washington, for a couple of days in a row, and it was just magic.
And of course,
same with Metal Church.
Of course,
there's not a lot of rehearsing that has to go on because everybody does their gig.
Yeah,
everybody does their job before
Yeah, and when you do these solo shows, I was curious. You plan on like headlining the shows, or would you rather get on like as an opening act with like on a bigger tour?
I'm up for anything. You know, I mean, yeah, I've done a couple of headlining things here and there and all that, but if I could land an opening slot, I mean, that would probably be very beneficial for me.
And as far as when you do these solo shows, I was curious, of course, being the singer of Metal Church, do you ever like throw in a Metal Church song during a solo set?
Of course.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Oh yeah, and I know definitely in every set that I do solo-wise, you're always going to hear Gods of Wrath. That's my all-time favorite song of Metal Church to sing.
And I was curious, Ronny, because I don't know if I told you last time I talked to you that I forget where they're from. I have to look it up for you, but there's actually a Metal Church band out there. If you look them up on Facebook, called Gods of Wrath. Have you ever were you aware of that?
Yeah, we ran into those guys, and I think that I don't know if Rick Mathiasen from Agent Steel or maybe actually I can't remember his name, but I think he was singing for them, or maybe Joe Lawson. But yeah, I met those guys. I can't remember exactly where it was. But I met those guys, and actually one of the guys gave me his shirt off his back, which I had to wash. It was a little sweaty, but it was a grand gesture because those guys are true David Wayne fans, which I've been battling ever since I've been in the band and all that. And I hope to always battle that because you know what? Like I said earlier, that's the legacy of the band, and I have no problem with that. But yeah, that's the first Metal Church tribute band that I've heard of, and there should be more.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about like I actually interview those guys, and that's the cool thing about like that's why I actually interview them. I'm like, man, I can't believe there's a Metal Church tribute out there. And like you said, there should be more, but that's the great thing about what they're doing. They're offering something that nobody else is offering up right now, and I just think that's the ultimate tribute, if you will.
Well, it is, and Metal Church is a legendary band. Kurt Vanderhoof and his songs, deserve to have that kind of credit. Because in my opinion, the band over the years has been a little bit disrespected and whatnot. And who knows why that is. Member changes, whatever. But basically, brass tacks is the songwriting. And Kurt has written some of the best thrash metal songs of all time.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying when I talked to you last time, to me, Metal Church, like you said, they say the big four. I think Metal Church would be like, in the top five. They just missed being as big as all those other bands. Like you said, I don't know, probably for any reason, just except for all the lineup changes. But you're talking about how you got these diehard David Wayne fans. But I imagine the time you've been in the band, you must have won a couple of those people over, and that must be a great feeling.
After this last record, Jason, there's been people that have kind of changed their tune. I've had some emails, some Facebook messages from people telling me just that. Basically saying, I really didn't like you, for the longest time. But now on this record, I think this and that and this and that. And you know what? Everybody is going to have an opinion.
Yeah.
And that's fine by me. And also, like I said, the legacy of the band is what it is. And I don't take offense to any of that. I mean, everybody has their own opinion. And for me, as long as I'm going out there, doing my job, singing these songs to the best of my ability, trying to stick to the original as much as I can, with also throwing a little bit of myself in there, then I'm happy and I'm doing my job. And I get a lot of kudos for that, but then again, there's also going to be those fans out there that are never going to accept me, and you know what? That's okay.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say on that. The last thing I'll say on that though is, you got the diehard David Wayne fans, and that's great. Like you said, that's part of a legacy.
You're breaking up a bit.
I was going to say, you got the diehard David Wayne fans, but the thing of it is there'd never be any chance for him to ever return to the band. He's gone on, he's passed on. So you got two choices: either the band continues with somebody new, and they keep making new music, or the band just gives it up because he's no longer here. So, and I think the fact you're doing the solo stuff shows that you've got your own talent going as well.
Well, yeah, that's correct, and that's it's not why I do the solo stuff. It's basically just because I do need to get myself out there, and I have my own music that I have to be heard.
Yeah.
But again, I'm going to continue on with Metal Church as long as I can. I'm going to continue doing the Ronny Munroe solo stuff as long as I can as well, and just, you know, as long as people are listening to what I'm doing and digging what I'm doing, well, then I'm going to continue to do it.
Okay, well, Ronny, once again, it's been great talking to you, and I've really enjoyed what I've heard of a new album. And I'm gonna, like I said, probably have to order mine off of Amazon, but I'm gonna do that because what I've heard is really impressive. And if you do me a favor, just stay on the line for a minute, and there's something I want to ask you before I let you go. So
Sure, buddy.
thanks again for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate the time, Jason.
Okay, bye bye.